What happens back one of Hollywood's most acute actors comes face-to-face with? A morning appearance host who thinks he can comedy adamantine ball. Well, Yorubuto would test at one of the best brutal exchanges any time bent on live television. And assurance me, you won't believe how this escalates. Accomplish sure you subscribe and be to animate version tailing. What you anticipate about what Tom Hardy does actuality, because this is absolutely willed. So, there's Tom Hardy sitting across from George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America. And you can already faculty the restriction in the air. Hardy's there to advance his latest film. But Stephanopoulos has other plans. The actor's cutting his usual understated style, a simple black jacket. But there's article in High Size that suggests he's not in the mood for games. Tom, acknowledgement for a budding youth this morning. Stephanopoulos begins, that confidence television smile plastered across his face. Your new blur is getting absurd reviews. But I want to allocution about article abroad first. Hardy accoutrement hardly in his chair, his jaw abbreviating aloof a fraction. Sure, George. What's on your mind? Well, there's been some controversy during your comments about method acting and brainy health. Some critics are added you've been capricious in how you access your craft. The camera catches Hardy's announcement change immediately, his eyes narrow. And you can see him processing what just happened. This wasn't declared to be an ambush interview. Irresponsible. Hardy's voice is calm. But there's a bend to it that anyone who knows his assignment would recognize. That's an absorbing chat choice, George. Care to elaborate? Stephanopoulos leans forward, clearly thinking he's in ascendancy here. Several mental bloom advocates accept criticize at your contempo interviews. Area you discuss diving abysmal into dark psychological spaces for your roles. They're added your glamorizing dangerous behavior. And you accede with them? Hardy asks, his Birmingham accent becoming hardly added arresting as his temperature rises. I'm alarmed at the questions here, Tom. What do you say to parents who ability be anxious about young actors afterward your example? There's a pause. Hardy stares at Stephanopoulos for what feels like eternity on a live television. The studio audience is actually silent, sensing something's about to go absolute wrong. Parents should be concerned. Hardy finally responds. About morning show host who do odd analysis before ambushing their guest with loaded questions. Based on secondhand gossip. Stephanopoulos' smile falters for just a moment. Tom, I don't anticipate that's fair. We're aloof aggravating to accept Anhona's conversation. Honest? Hardy lets out a abbreviate beam that doesn't ability High Size. George, mate, if you capital Anhona's conversation, you would have mentioned this ban of analytic to my publicist. You would accept done your homework instead of account talking points off a teleprompter. But that's not what this is it? I anticipate our viewers deserve to apprehend your acknowledgement to these accepted concerns. Your viewers deserve bigger than this abridged garbage adding as journalism. Hardy's articulation is still controlled, but you can feel the storm building. Tell him, George, aback was the aftermost time your sarch adjustment acting. Aback did you speak to absolute brainy health professionals about the therapeutic benefits of exploring difficult emotions in a controlled, professional environment. Stephanopoulos is clearly hurtled now, but he's acceleration down. Tom, I anticipate your actuality defensive air. Defensive, Hardy repeats. And no, there's 18-carat atheism in his voice. George, I came actuality at 5 in the morning to allocution about a blur I'm passionate about. Instead, you're aggravating to create a antic moment based on quotes you've taken actually out of context. That's not defensive. That's alleged accepting standards. Well, the quotes allege for themselves, Dothy. Because I'd adulation to apprehend which specific quotes you're apropos to. Can you adduce them from each chat for word? Thesalent stretches uncomfortably long. Stephanopoulos glances at his notes, then aback at Hardy. Well, there have been several interviews area you've discussed your acute preparation methods. Several interviews, Hardy repeats slowly. But you can't adduce a single one specifically, can you? You can acquaint me which publication, which journalist, which exact words I used that you acquisition so problematic. Tom, I think we're accepting off clue here. No, George, I anticipate we're accepting appropriate on track. You've accused me of being responsible, of potential influencing adolescent actors in dangerous ways. But you can't acquaint me what I supposedly said. That's not journalism, mate. That's appearance assassination based on hearsay. The camera shouts to Stephanopoulos acutely uncomfortable now, his able accord starting to crack. I accept the advice right here in my notes. Again apprehended. Hard-eye challenges. Apprehend me the exact adduce that is you so anxious about my influencing in adolescent actors. Stephanopoulos fumbles with his affidavit. And you can see these wheat starting to anatomy on his forehead. The specific adduce isn't as important as all-embracing arrangement of statements. The specific adduce isn't important. Hardy's voice rises hardly for the aboriginal time. George, You aloof spent 5 minutes questioning my able integrity based on article you affirmation I said. And no, your cogent me the absolute words didn't matter. That's not what I'm saying. Again, what are you saying? Because from area I'm sitting. It sounds like you brought me on the show under apocryphal pretenses so you could ambush me with accusations you can't even appropriately articulate. The restriction and flat is apparent now. You can see crew associates in the background exchanging afraid glances. And Thecamera operators assume borderline whether to keep rolling or cut away. Stephanopoulos tries to achieve control, allowance his throat and attempting to beacon it back to safer ground. Tom, let's allocution about your new film. The appearance you comedy deals with some abundant themes, but Hardy isn't letting him off the angle that easily. No, George, we're not done here. You just spent several account advancing my professional methods, based on research you acutely haven't done. You owe your viewers an explanation. I anticipate Wes Howell move on. I anticipate you shouldn't were the question. You brought up these brainy bloom advocates who are supposedly anxious about my influence. Name one. Give me a distinct name off Simeon who was accurately criticizing me approach. Stephanopoulos shifts uncomfortably in his chair. Tom, there have been several articles, but no names, no specific quotes, no absolute criticism you can point to. Hardy leans advanced slightly. George, do you apprehend you're doing exactly what you're accusing me of? You're potentially damaging Somian's reputation based on vague, unsubstantiated claims. That's not the same affair at all, isn't it? You've just told millions of admirers that mental health advocates anticipate I'm irresponsible. You've appropriate that parents should be afraid about my influence on adolescent actors. But you can't provide a distinct allotment of affirmation to support any of that. The camera captures Stephanus' attractive increasing life illustrated. We accept producers who research these topics. Your producers, Hardy repeats, and there's something almost pitying in his tone. Now, George, let me ask you something. How continued have you been in journalism? That's no relevant. I anticipate it's absolute relevant because what you're accomplishing appropriate now isn't journalism. It's gossip. It's the affectionate of lazy, irresponsible advertisement that give us actual journalists a bad name. Stephanopoulos' face is accepting red no. Tom, I don't acknowledge your tone. And I don't acknowledge actuality ambushed on live television by addition. Who couldn't be agitated to do basal fact-checking? But actuality we are. We arrive you actuality as a guest. You arrive me actuality beneath that pretense of discussing my work. Then immediately launched into an attack based on advice you can't even verify. That's not hosting. George, that's intranet. The flat admirers is completely bashful watching this train wreck disentangle in absolute time. You can see people in the aggregation starting to look panicked, apparently apprehensive if they should cut to commercial. Tom, I think you're overreacting. Overreacting? Hardy's articulation gets quieter, which somehow makes it added menacing. George, you've aloof accused me of potentially arming adolescent actors. You've suggested I'm capricious in my access to mental health. You've adumbrated that I'm a bad access, and you did all of this without a distinct atom of evidence. How exactly would you like me to react? These are accepted questions about celebrity responsibilities on what? Appearance me the study. Show 'em the able opinion. Appearance me anything other than your producer-centred of what edition might have said. About article I ability have it done. Stephanopoulos looks bottomward at his notes again, acutely stalling. That concerns except been aloft in various media outlets. Various media outlets, Hardy echoes. George, do you hear yourself? You complete like a politicianaging a bribery scandal. Various sources say bodies are concerned. It's being reported. These are weasel words, mate. This is how bodies allocution when thire authoritative things up. I'm not macking anything up. Again prove it appropriate now and air. Appearance me one specific archetype off what you're talking about. The silence stretches on always in television time. Stephanopoulos shuffles his papers, looks at the cameras, looks back at 30. Tom, I anticipate we're spending too much time on this. We're spending exactly the appropriate bulk of time on this. You've fabricated austere accusations against my able character. And no, you're aggravating to run abroad about a schedule to back them up. That's not how this works. Nobody's active abroad from anything. Again, stop deflecting and answer the question. One name, one a specific quote. One allotment of actual evidence for any of the claims you've made. Stephanopoulos is visibly sweating now. Tom, our analysis aggregation compiled information from assorted sources. Your search team, Hardy says slowly, compiled information. George, that's not an answer. That's accumulated speak. You're ambuscade abaft your analysis team the aforementioned way you're ambuscade abaft. These anonymous critics and ambiguous concerns. I'm not ambuscade abaft anything. Then take responsibility. Either accept out and accept specific advice to back up your accusations or accommodate it. Stop trying to accept it both ways. You can see Stephanopoulos attractive off camera, probably at his producers, clearly hoping for some affectionate of rescue. Tom, I think our admirers would adopt a hair about your new film. Our admirers deserve better than this. They deserve host who do absolute analysis instead of ambushing just with abridged rumors. They deserve a journalist who can back up their questions with facts, instead of hiding behind weasel words and anonymous sources. Your actuality absolute aggressive air. I'm actuality precise. There's a difference. You came at me with serious accusations, and now you're agitated that I'm alarmed you to back them up with actual evidence. That's not aggression, George. That's accountability. That camera shows the flat admirers looking completely captivated but I'll sound comfortable, like they're witnessing something they shouldn't be seeing. Stephanopoulos tries one at a time to gain control. Tom, let's try to accept that productive chat here. We could have had an advantageous chat if you'd started with honest questions say about my absolute assignment instead of manufactured altercation advised to create a viral moment. But you chose this approach, so let's see it through. Stephanopoulos makes one after most desperate attempt to deliver the interview. Tom, you understand you're amorous about your work, but actually you can acknowledge it. Celebrities accept a responsibility. They allege about sensitive topics. Hardy stares at him for a long moment and back he speaks. His voice has a bend that cuts through the studio like a knife. Absolutely, George. Celebrities do accept a responsibility as like journalists accept a responsibility to their audience. Just like morning appearance hosts accept a responsibility to adapt appropriately for their interviews. Aloof like network television has an albatross to maintain some basal standards of integrity. I anticipate we advance absolute high standards here. Do you? Because right now your admirers is watching you make accusations you can't support. Ask questions based on analysis you haven't done. And contrivance accountability when called out on it. Is that the high standard you're apropos to? The camera catches Stephanopoulos' face, and you can see him starting to lose his composure completely. Tom, you're being incredibly difficult. Difficult. Hardy's voice rises hardly, and there's genuine credulity there. George, you ambush me with apocryphal accusations on live television, and you anticipate I'm being difficult. For allurement you to back them up with facts. What actually did you expect will appear here? I accepted a professional conversation. Again, you should accept conducted yourself professionally. You should accept on your homework. You should accept prepared actual questions instead of tabloid gotcha nonsense. Stephanopoulos looks around desperately. Acutely hoping Simeon will cut to bartering or end this nightmare. Tom, I anticipate we charged blanket this up Dotto. Now you appetite to blanket it up after you've spent 10 account advancing my professional candor. Based on nothing? After you've adumbrated to millions of viewers that I'm alarming influencing adolescent actors. Now you appetite to just move on. We accept bound time. We had limited time back you absolutely to waste it on bogus altercation. Instead of discussing my absolute work. You mad at the choice, George. You absolutely this was how you capital to absorb our time together. The flat is asleep silent except for the hum of the cameras. You can see aggregation associates frozen, borderline what do. This has gone actually off the rails. Tom, I'm activity to ask you one more time to amuse accent it down. Tonight down. Hardy's articulation gets quieter again, but somehow added intense. George, you aloof told me to accent it bottom word on your show after words you attacked my professional repute. Ian, do you accept how insulting that is? I'm aloof aggravating to have a civilian conversation. Civil. Hardy lets out a absinthian laugh. There's nothing civil about ambushing a bedfellow with unsubstantiated accusations. There's annihilation civilian about making claims you can't back up. There's nothing civilian about aggravating to damage Simeon's acceptability for ratings. Stephanopoulos is afraid heavily now. His able affectation conflatella slipped. Tom, that's not what this is about. Again, what is it about? Explain it on me. Explain to your admirers why you brought me actuality beneath apocryphal. Pretenses. Explain why you anticipation it. Was acceptable to accomplish austere accusations would accomplishing basal. Fact-checking. Explain why you anticipate. Journalism means repeating account and calling it. And G, we're aggravating. To ask important questions say about celebrity influence. No, you're trained to actualize altercation area non-exist. You're aggravating to manufacture edra for television ratings. And when called out on it, you're ambuscade behind the concepts like celebrity responsibility and important questions. The camera shows Stephanopoulos looking completely defeated, but Hardy isn't done. George, let me ask you something. Do you accept children? That's no relevant. I anticipate at Island. Do you have a children who ability see this interview? Children who ability apprentice from watching how you conduct yourself professionally? Tom, please. Because if you do, what else do you anticipate they're learning right now? That it's accept to make accusations after evidence? That it's adequate to ambuscade people with lies and alarmant journalism? That when you're bent in your own negligence, you can aloof ass bodies toad on it bottomward and move on? Stephanopoulos off camera again, acutely pleading with his producers to end this. Tom, I think we should booty a break. A break. Hardy stands up hardly in his chair. George, you don't get to booty a break from accountability. You don't get to make austere accusations against Simeone's appearance and again aloof walk away aback. Asked to absolve them. Security? Stephanopoulos calls out, and that's back aggregate goes completelians. Security? Hardy's articulation is filled with disbelief. You're calling security on me for allurement you to back up your own questions with facts. This is unbelievable. You can see security guards starting to move against the set and Hardy all over his arch in amazement. This is what avant-garde journalism has become. Folks, Hardy says, looking directly into the camera now instead of fat Stephanopoulos. A back of journalists it's alleged out for base analysis and unsubstantiated accusations. They call security instead of acceptance their mistakes. Tom, you charge to calm down, one of the Aegis guards says as he approaches. Calm down. Hardy looks at the guard, again aback at Stephanopoulos. I'm sitting in my armchair speaking in complete senses. Allurement for basic journalistic standards. What actually do I charge to calm bottomward from? Stephanopoulos is actually ups in ascendancy now. Remove him from the set. On what grounds? Hardy asks, still sitting calmly in his chair. For allurement you to accommodate affirmation for your accusations. For assured you to do your job professionally. As Aegis moves closer, Hardy stands up slowly, deliberately. This is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. I came actuality to talk about my assignment, and I'm actuality removed from the set. For assured basic journalistic integrity. He looks directly into the camera one at a time, folks. This is what happens back you ask for accountability in avant-garde media. Remember this moment. And with that, Tom Hardy walks off the set beneath his own power. Abrogation Stephanopoulos sitting there attractive actually Carapace shocked. The flat admirers and abashed silence seemed television history made. The camera leaners on Stephanopoulos for a few more seconds, assuming him aggravating to compose himself. Ambiguity his affidavit with shaking easily afore assuredly cutting away. To what had to be an unplanned commercial break. What did you anticipate off that actually barbarous exchange? Tom Hardy didn't aloof avert himself. He completely apparent the bank tabloid style of avant-garde morning television. Subscribe. If you appetite to see more breakdowns of moments aback. Celebrities refuse to comedy the game. And beat a comment cogent me which allotment of Hardy's takedown hit the hardest for.